Good morning, lovely people. How are you all today? I hope you're well. I'm well. I look a bit dishevelled because it was a little bit of a disturbed night last night, quite muggy. But then, finally the rain came, so I didn't get much sleep. Never mind. We're going to do something a little bit different today, partly because, let me adjust my cushion, partly because it's still raining this morning, so I'm staying at home, but also partly because I've got some friends popping by tomorrow, so for once the flat's quite tidy. Also, it's quite tidy because I've been working my backside off most evenings to finally get the new department in my shop open. As with all the departments, it's never a sort of a finished thing. I'm always going to add to it as and when I can find things. But yay, finally a vintage stitchery is now open within the shop. Vintage fabrics, vintage ribbons, vintage books and patterns, and anyway, so so for once the flat is actually quite tidy. It's rarely like this. So I thought, while it is quite tidy and organised, why don't we have a flat tour? Because, you know, loads of you over the years have asked me for this. Over and over again I've been asked. Why have I never done it? Never got around to it, usually because it's such chaos in here. But I thought, yeah, why not do it this morning? Because I know you're all nosy. I am too. It's that thing, isn't it? You know, when you make friends with someone, but you make friends with them outside of the home. Let's say some of my gardening friends, where I've made friends with them in the garden initially, and then later on the relationship develops, so you become friends that actually then go to each other's houses, and you go to someone's house for the first time and you just want to have a nosy, don't you? And you look and you think, this isn't what I was expecting from them, or this is exactly what I was expecting. So yeah, I thought we'll do that today, and then also for me it will be a little record of this flat. I mean, I've got pictures from over the years, but yeah, I thought, what with moving next year, don't get sad, it'll be a nice record for me. So yeah, let's start. I think two themes will emerge really clearly. Don't expect much. It's a frugal, humble little home. You know, it's all very simple. It's simple. And I think the two main things you'll gather as we go around is that everything is either about comfort and coziness, because I'm a little homebody, or functionality. Quite often, both. So let's go and start. Come and have a nosy at my home. We're going to start in the bathroom. Now, I have done quite an extensive video about the bathroom, in which I explained the reno, because this bathroom was hideous when I bought the place. Completely ripped the entire old bathroom out, put a new bathroom in. Oh, my loo seat's up. Hang on a sec. You don't want seeing me loo. So I did this on a really, really, really mega tight budget. I'll give you a look at everything. So that might be of interest to folks, so I'll tag that video on at the end. But yeah, like I was just saying, everything's very simple. Bath time. Oh, I love bath time. Bathing is one of my most favourite things to do in the whole world. But yeah, super simple. Shampoo, conditioner, bath salts, Epsom salts. Oh, my tea strainer. My tea strainer is there because this was some salts that were gifted to me. They smell gorgeous, but they have rose petals in, and I don't like the rose petals in the bath. So I run the bath and use the tea strainer to scoop the petals out. Dry skin brush, just brush over my skin, help sort of stimulate circulation, lymphatic drainage, all of that. Super simple. And then literally a bar of soap, a scrubbing brush and a pumice. The scrubbing brush is all over the house, as I'm sure there are in most gardeners' houses. But yeah, just be simple, be ordinaire, hand knitted washcloth. And then, oh, it's quite narrow, but it's long, my bathroom. There's plenty of space in it. And here's another never have I ever tumble dried my clothes. They always just go on the airer to dry. I've got an overflowing wash basket at the moment, a laundry. But this, it's massive. Do you know what? I'll try to remember. This is some vintage linens. I'll explain where they came from, and I've got a plan. I've got these 2 panels like this. I've got a plan for them, which I'm dead excited about. So I'll share that with you in another video. Again, it's all super duper simple. Bar of soap and a scrubbing brush. That is a very, very, all the bristles are well wonky. That is a very well used scrubbing brush, particularly when I come home after doing tomato cares in the summer. Decorations are dead simple too. That's a map of Dorset, beloved Dorset, and my grandparents. And they used to live, there's a little village marked here, let me see, called Langton. Wonderful wild swimming down here, and then in later life they moved down to the town of Swanage, but on there it's written Sandwich. On the other side, sorry, swinging you round, there's a lovely little needle point. It's so pale you can't see it. To my dear sister, a needle point my sister did for me. She actually bought this in Cape Cod. She was in Cape Cod for a couple of summers, teaching tennis and sailing, and when she was at university, it was the BUNAC, British University's North America camps, so she was like a camp coach. Brought that back and made it for me. It's lovely. And this, where I was just pointing at the wild swimming, this is a painting of Seacombe Bottom, where I broke my wrist when I was 6 years old and I was smashed onto the rocks by a huge wave, but lovely swimming. And then the only other bits of decoration in here, like I said, all of this towel rail, the rad cover, everything was kind of made from scrap. And it just all functions. It's simple, but it's functional, and I love it. Oh, I've got here this is to remind me, calendula flowers, and then I've got some beeswax, almond oil, ready to get started with another infusion of calendula oil. My emergency gin, which you can see is still sealed. Emergency gin, still not opened. So that's it with the bathroom. Oh, and also, look, I've got this toweling robe. I never ever use a robe, but when I had that knee surgery, I was told I had to have a robe to go into hospital, so I quickly had to buy one. It's hung there pretty much ever since. And I love little things like this. This little ceramic door hook. Look, it's my garden penny. Such a cute little ceramic door hook. I picked that up for 50p in a junk shop. Isn't it cute? Pretty much everything in my home is either second-hand, hand-me-down, picked up in a junk shop, picked up at a sale somewhere, cobbled together from scraps. It all works. My little hallway, it's quite a small hallway, you can see, but there was quite a deep cavity there when I moved in, so I built a wardrobe and some storage in. Again, it's dead simple. I do like my little handles. Cute. I mean, that's the thing as well, isn't it? You can have something just to step back. It is super duper plain, super simple. Wanted to keep it simple. It looks kind of wonky. That's because my walls and ceilings are wonky. But you can always just have a little tiny bit of, something, your little quirk. Like, oh, I love this. This is my my cock-a-doodle-doos from a lovely friend of mine, and still hanging on here. Oh, my dog's collar. I think it's always going to hang there, isn't it? But yeah, ever so simple for storage. You quickly saw in here when I was doing my decluttering. That's my wardrobe. That's my clothes. A bit sparse at the moment, but you know what? It's enough. It does for me. At the bottom, oh, sorry, penny down. Space for shoes. Great, but it goes back quite deeply, so I can get quite a bit of stuff in there. Ditto next door. This is all shelved out, so it's you know, it's foldy stuff, jumpers and leggings, t-shirts, sweatshirts, fleeces, winter stuff. That one on the bottom is a lovely velvet patchwork throw I made. That quite often comes onto the sofa for the winter. I told you, it's all about comfort, isn't it? And then I'm not going to show you in there because that's where I keep bits and bobs of stash of presents, but it just kind of, it opens up, goes quite far back, so again a bit of storage. The thing is, actually, let's carry this on in the kitchen because it's particularly pertinent in the kitchen. First little glimpse of the kitchen. Yeah, what I was about to say that's really pertinent is when I first moved in here, of course, I was working as a bookseller. So I really didn't need a huge amount of storage because I don't have a lot of stuff. So that wardrobe I built in, that was perfectly sufficient. Obviously it's changed slightly, especially in the last 5 years, because now, suddenly, from this little teeny tiny home, I'm running 4 businesses. You know, I'm running a YouTube social media business, I'm running a food production business, I'm running a sewing business, I'm running a shop business. So if I had to plan it all again, I would do things a bit differently in terms of storage, but I've got what I've got and I make the most of it. So in actual fact, I know it looks really small because it's cluttered, but it's actually quite a decent sized kitchen. It's 4 metres, it's actually 4.5 metres right into the eaves, 4 metres that way, and slightly wider than I think it's 2.5 metres across. It's probably double the size of a lot of the kitchens that my friends have in their sort of 2 up, 2 down terraced houses. It doesn't look that big because this is what I mean about storage. So when I first moved in, I didn't have any of that stuff down there. I just have this table and 2 chairs either side. Now I bought this table. This is one of the only expensive things I've ever bought. Let me give you a flash at beautiful French oak, 1920s. I love. There's ever such a slight taper on the legs. The new printer, you see how it fits so perfectly under there? So I just realised the computer's still on because I was working this morning. The reason I bought this table was, you can see there's a little leaf. It slides under and tucks away exactly as this leaf does. So the whole thing can expand and I can just about get 4 people around it for eating. But when I got that, as I did actually spend money on it, I was looking around, all the usual suspects, you know, looking at IKEA and stuff, and they were all just horrible, these small, horrible. So I thought, why not invest in a gorgeous antique? So actually when that leaf is put away and the chairs are either side, it feels bigger. So when I come to sell, the printer will be off, the computer, all that. And then this is the big squish in the kitchen, is having 2 extra freezers. This doesn't normally have all this clobber on top. That's stuff for my friends. So yeah, when these aren't here, it actually feels considerably larger. Very last of my squash. These are my mother geranium plants. They look a bit tatty and a bit sorry for themselves. But, you know what, they always give me great cuttings each year. So I grew those from seed about 5 years ago, was it? And yeah, it was 5 years ago. And each year I take my cuttings down to the garden and the mothers stay here. Thank you, mother plants. As for cabinetry, well, you can see there's an awkward space at the end, so I went old school with like a sink curtain, even though there's not a sink. Oh, I didn't put last night's washing up away. And now I'm trapped in a corner. Let me come this way. So, oh. So I've only got cabinets underneath, and it's actually freezer, under sink cupboard, washing machine, fridge, cooker. So that cupboard in the end, that's the only cupboard that I use for, there's a couple of pots and pans in there. That's my pantry as well. So yeah, that's what I mean. It's all very pared down. I can't imagine, can't imagine most folk could make do in a kitchen with just that for cupboardage. And you know, there's Tupperware, some pots, my lovely vintage crockery, spare water bottle, a bit of food pantry on the other side. But it does me, because actually most of my food is coming fresh from the garden, or is ending up, you know, in the freezers, these two and that one, or onions, they stay in the shed, the squash. So I don't actually need that much cupboard space, but I do have a little bit of open shelving. I love open shelving in a kitchen. It's, you know, everything that I use is to hand. So my sort of plates and crockery that are in daily use, mugs, glasses, my cutlery. I don't have any drawers in my kitchen, so my cutlery is just in old jam jars. It works perfectly well. Spices, they're always to hand. At the top is sort of like, you know, more like the cooking bits. Teapot, because I don't have tea very often. Oh, my lens needs cleaning, I've just realised. It works, it just works for me. I want to tell you about this, my draining rack and my chopping board. This is a really good tip for folk. This counter, let me come this way, beautiful, beautiful French oak. I do like my French oak. French oak. This cost a small fortune. This is one, from here, it was one continuous 4-metre run. We actually had to cut it, you can see here, because we couldn't get it up the stairs, because it's so long. Oh my God, it was so heavy as well. I did think at one point about getting a block and tackle outside and on the back to hoist it up the back of the building, but a block and tackle would have cost me a fortune, so we just went with the, you know what, cut it in half. One of the reasons it cost a fortune is, well, partly it's extra thick this way, but also it's actually extra deep from the back to the front. So a standard worktop comes to about, I think it's about here. I wanted that extra bit of overhang because I've got big feet and I like to stand snug up. So by the time I can't show you, by the time I tuck my feet under where the kickboard is, we need to do the floor again, I just find it much more comfortable. And the other thing is the whole kitchen is built, I can't remember the exact measurement now, but I think it's 2 inches higher, or not 10 centimetres. I can't remember now, but the whole kitchen is built higher than standard because I'm a tall girl. I wanted to be comfortable. So yeah, it cost an absolute fortune. But here's the thing, of course, where the hob sits in and where the sink sit in, those bits of wood get cut out. And you know what, that's a whole chunk of oak that I've paid for. So if you do likewise, if you do it yourself, don't chuck it away. But if you have builders in doing it, don't let them cut it out and chuck it away. Keep it, because then what you can do is create your draining rack. So, so this, you can see how weathered this is because this was never oiled. Oh, also, just before I talk about that, the great thing about You can see that's from my cast iron pan lid. The great thing about this wooden worktop, and this is one of the jobs for before I move, is I can sand this whole thing right down again, get out any little stains. There's under the boiler in the corner, there are a couple of sort of water marks where there was a drip at one point, not anymore. But they can all be sanded out and then just oil it again, and it'll look absolutely stunning all over again. But what I was saying about the insert for the sink that you cut out, this is just so easy. Round the edge off, do a little route around here, just sort of, prettify it a bit. And then all these channels, these are just routed out channels on a very slight gradient, so obviously the water can then drip off. It overhangs, you can see that, overhangs the edge of the sink, so it all runs off and drips off. Underneath there's a channel cut all the way along so the water doesn't run down and hold and gather underneath. That channel just helps it all to drop off and pop into the sink. And likewise, although this isn't from my cooker cutout, I got this from a skip. It's obviously someone's kitchen cutout, but again, just, round off the edge, route around the edge, just to kind of give it a bit of finish off. And that's a great big, I can't pick it up with one hand. That's a great big chopping board. How much would an oak chopping board cost you? I've no idea, but I'm reckoning it would be a lot of money. So yeah, if you ever do a kitchen up yourself and you have a wooden surface put in, solid wooden surface, when you do your cutouts, keep your cutouts either as a chopping board or, like I did over there, to make a draining rack. Don't chuck them away. Don't let your builder carry them off. Keep them and use them. Oh, it's getting really humid now. I closed the windows at the front because of sort of traffic noise on wet road. But it's, now we've had this rain, the humidity's building. Right, let's go and have a nosy around the main room. I've come back around to the hallway so we can start the main room from here. Let's just have a quick sort of overview. I can't get it all in shot. And we're going to struggle with the light today. Now, this room is 6 metres this way by 5 metres to the window. It's actually a really, really big room. Let's take the window out of shot and that will help me with the lighting. It's actually a really big room, and when I come to sell, it would not surprise me at all if, it's huge for a studio. It wouldn't surprise me at all if a developer comes in and decides to somehow put a wall somewhere in the middle or 2/3 third and make it into a 1-bed flat, because 1-bed flats sell for a lot more than studios. It's something I could have done. I thought about it momentarily, but actually, you know what? I didn't really want 2 pokey rooms. I love this big room with tons and tons of light, as you can see from the south-facing window. Tons of light all day, so I kept it as a studio. So you've all seen my mannequin in back of shot. Initially I bought that for doing my eBay sales, but it's been quite useful as well for if I've got a sewing project on the go, which I haven't had for ages. So this frock, I was going to do some alterations. It just sits on there for now rather than having a bare mannequin, which looks a bit yucky. My lovely old grandfather clock behind, which I need to get the clock man out because it's not working very well. It tick-tocks for a bit and then it's just stopping. So I don't know if it sort of needs more balancing. This actually used to belong to my mum. It was something my mum and dad bought early in their marriage, and obviously when they got divorced my mum got to keep it. almost no value because the top was cut off because they lived in a modern house and the ceilings were low. But the reason I've got it is because my mum was doing a lot of family history and found out that my great times 5 grandfather was a clockmaker, a long case clockmaker. So she managed to track down one of his clocks at auction, bought it, and therefore didn't want this one anymore. So I said, yes please, I'll have it. It's so pretty. So I won't bother getting the clock guy out now. I'll wait till I move, because the thing with these clocks, let me come back a bit, you see it. Yeah, the thing with long case clocks is it's all about the balance, so the pendulum is swinging freely and da-da-da. But yeah, so when I move, it depends if I'm in this area or a new area. One of the first things I will do, well, not the first thing, but one thing that will definitely be on the list is finding a local clock person. My lovely cabinet. I adore this little cabinet. Yeah, I know sort of dark wood isn't very popular, but there's not too much of it. With glazed doors, it's the perfect, useful place for me to stash fabrics. And there's a few music CDs at the bottom because, yes, I'm old school with my music. But yeah, it's the perfect place for me to stash the fabrics because obviously with the doors it keeps the dust off them. They're beautiful to look at anyway. I glance at them and I get inspired and get to work. They're all sort of sorted already. I know, for instance, this is all buntings. There's 4 different bunting designs in there. There's 2 more in the bottom there. The top is not for bunting. Some of this is to do with lavender bags and other projects. These, I've got lots of sort of red, pinkish scraps in the top here. It's not very clear through the glass. Lots of Liberty scraps in there, and I'm thinking about what to do with them, including a quilt for myself, but we'll see. But yeah, it's lovely to have everything there. So, obviously that's my sewing machine, so that I can enjoy seeing these beautiful, beautiful fabrics even when I'm not actually working with them. This is all sewing bits as well. Ribbons, more ribbons. I had a bit of a sort out recently. Oh, my labels. Oh my, these, do you remember the beautiful Gutermann threads that came in the boxes? Some random buttons. More of the Gutermann threads. What I like about this is just a cheap IKEA unit. I'm sure loads of you have these as well. But what I like is, because the drawers come right out, if I'm doing tons of sewing, well, like when I'm getting really stuck into, say, bunting, or even the lavender bags, because I change the thread colours depending on the colours of fabric, obviously, I just get the whole drawer out. And I've just seen, note to self, thread to buy, cream colour 414 in the 500 metres. Okay. What's in that one? Oh, odds and pins. That's, I keep for when I'm sewing on paper. That's my needle for sewing on paper because it gets blunt. Obviously that's the foots, the different feet, the different feet for the sewing machine. Oh yeah, I remember I bought some new needles. More sewing bits in here. I'm on tippy. Oh yes, that's some lovely. Let's move that a sec. I'm just going to sit and have a look at this a second. What is that? That's Liberty. Oh, elastic from when I was making masks. Oh yes. This is tiny. This is all. Oh my goodness. Beautiful. This is all tiny scraps. I'm going to just perch on the bed a second. Tiny scraps of Liberty. Oh, that was beautiful. Oh, I love it, love it, love it. They're so tiny. But what I was thinking of doing, where was my favourite from this lot? That's beautiful. I love these colours. I love sort of purples, lilacs, blues. Oh, gorgeous. Some of you who had lavender bags earlier in the year will recognise some of these. I wanted to find... Oh, that's gorgeous, isn't it? But they're so small. I don't know... I've still got its label on. I don't know if I will have the patience, to do anything with them. So what I was thinking, I want to get to this one, it's gorgeous. Oh, this is the, you know, I was just saying about how it's lovely to have one's fabrics out because you can see them and be inspired. Oh, look at that, beautiful. But the only problem with that is then you start playing with fabrics instead of doing the other things one was supposed to be doing with one's day. So what I was thinking for all of these is that I might make up, when I do the vintage scrap packs, sorry, going a bit blurry, I might also, in each of those scrap packs, I might put in a few little bits of Liberty. I think that would be nice. That's not Liberty, but still sweet, sweet. Oh, lovely rosebuds. Right, I'd forgotten they were in there. Thank you for asking me for a nosy around the flat. That's a good reminder. Oh, do you remember, I don't know if you ever saw it, but I made a video about make, do and mend with clothes, and I'd bought a jacket that was like, it was a designer jacket that I got really relatively cheaply at a charity shop. I thought there was a button missing. I didn't like the buttons anyway. This is the original buttons. I didn't like these. They were heavy and clunky. I thought there was one missing, so I replaced all the buttons, then found the missing button in the pocket. But, and this is a really good tip for anyone who, especially if it's a designer-ish type garment, if you take the buttons off to put your own on, keep the originals, so that if you ever want to sell that garment later on, you can put the originals back on, so that it's a proper job, proper original job. Let's get this back. And then this is, oh yeah, more sewing bits obviously. That is, I can tell what this is straight away. That's a kit to get going. This was, because I can tell by the colours, this was for me to get going on Sheena's bunting, which has never happened. Not to worry, she's not too disturbed by that. Bunting template, rotary cutter, scissors. Oops, sorry. Yeah, it's all there to hand. So whenever it's a sewing session, I can just grab everything I need. It doesn't take up too much room, but you know what? The truth is, that's not all my fabric, because, oh dear, under the bed, you can't quite see, there are 2 old school suitcases full of vintage fabrics, linens, etc., awaiting my attention. Now, I realised that I've already talked quite a bit, so I think probably, I'm going to open the cupboard and we can have a look at this fabric as I wrap up. I think probably what I should do is do this in 2 halves, because there are more tales to tell. So I think we shall say that's the end of part 1 of the house tour. Oh, that's that gorgeous, can you see that's that gorgeous one with the cherries I found recently. The smell in here is beautiful as well, because, oh, this is my favourite Liberty. Oh, I've got to pull this out and show you. I think this is my absolute, hang on a sec, it's probably my all-time favourite Liberty. Let's just sit on the bed again so I can show you. Yeah, whenever I get fabrics, I always wash and press them before I put them away. Oh, isn't that a beauty? Isn't that such a beautiful, cheerful thing? I really don't know what to do with it because I rarely do this. I rarely keep, I have all these beautiful fabrics. I make things, I sell them, they're gone out of my life. I do not want this fabric to go out of my life. I love it so much. Digressing, this is what fabric does to you. The fabric cabinet, it just smells lovely because everything gets washed and pressed and, thoroughly aired before it goes in there. But also, excuse me, whenever I have spare soap, if I'm gifted soap, if it's, let's get those out of the way. If it's sometime after Christmas, then I also keep my soaps in there. So it just smells, it's so lovely. That's another beautiful bit of Liberty. I think this is called Summer Meadow, I think it's called. And I've used this in 2 different colourways. You'll see, well, it's now going to be in part 2. You'll see I've prepped some of this for lavender bags already. But yeah, my goodness me, I've got some sewing to do, haven't I? But for now, I'm going to say cheerio for part 1, whilst I just sit and gaze lovingly at this gorgeousness. All right, lovelies, I'll see you again very soon for part 2 of having a nosy around my home.